Hello, I'm Mantastic and Fantastic, and today we're going to be featuring the man, the legend, the mystery, Fantastic, as he has managed to achieve rank 700. So, Fantastic, tell me about yourself. Well, hello there. No, just kidding. But regardless, Fantastic is my alternate account, and it may seem relatively well developed and quite old. And to be honest, it actually is a very old account, because it is almost as old as Mantastic. It's very close to 1200 days, so it actually has had plenty of time to grow relatively naturally without the aid of purchasing excessive amounts of stones. So obviously, when co-op came out, it made it a lot easier to maintain a second account because I was basically able to play both at the same time, progress and work on them, and it worked out very well for me because I had actually a very well-developed alternate account at the time of co-op release. So this 700 box store will basically be showing basically all the exciting cards Fantastic has, as well as taking a stroll down memory lane. So as you can see here, my very first roll on Fantastic was Hermes, as well as all the random stuff such as, I probably rolled that Flare Draw, I probably rolled that Zeal, I probably rolled the Vampire and the Homura. Like, it was a dark time back then. And I probably have sold many things in between, to be fair, but I managed to roll another Hermes. And at the time, Hermes was actually a reasonable leader because it did offer a blistering 2 times health and 2 times attack. So it was actually quite a potent leader. However, things have obviously changed, but I've kept a lot of the older cards. Like, I still have that Lilith, I still have the Enchilada, I have that lovely Leek because I get hungry sometimes. There's that Droid Dragon, and then the box took a turn for the better when I rolled a Yumesachi Yamasachi. Now, I used Yumesachi Yamasachi on this account for like 2 years, I'd say. Like, it was the team that basically carried me through all of the content that was basically available at the time. And it was great, it was glorious. And then I actually rolled a Lucifer, but I didn't like the Lucifer playstyle, and I stuck with UNY. I managed to acquire a few other cards, like, I don't know if that, maybe that Valkyrie I actually beat, maybe. Definitely rolled the Orochi. I got the Hera Like, you can see I've acquired these Descend bosses. I got this max skilled Hera Is from back in the day, which I was quite proud of, and now it's not really much of an accomplishment anymore, but still it's quite awesome. And then apparently I rolled in the Hello Kitty collab. I must have had a lapse of judgment because I have, a cinnamon roll, which is cute, and I have a Hello Kitty and an evolved Hello Kitty. This is weird. I forgot about this. Oh, and the Plus C. Like, wow. I really must have made a mistake. I have a lot of Hello Kitty things. Regardless, I got this was kind of like the I equivalent back then, so it was interesting. I then got Leyland Yomi, and you have to remember, when I rolled these cards back then, they didn't have these Awoken Evolutions, so they didn't necessarily have much viability. And I was pretty much just playing with UNY for, like I said, 2 years. My team is obviously built and gone up and down over the years to the point where I actually have got 2 Awoken UNYs as well as the other one. So I actually have the duplicate being inherited onto my other Awoken UNY, and I have cleared Arena 3 in co-op with myself with UNY. It's not consistent by any means. It's fun, but it's not reliable, unfortunately. Like, I really like the UNY playstyle, and I really like how he works presently. I just wish he had more viability because he's very orb hungry and he's too fragile, unfortunately. So I feel like strolling down through here is not showing too much more. Like, I got the Sakuya, I got the Red Odin, got a Sonya, there's a lovely Lakshmi and Astaroth, there's some Ares. I obviously had lots of Godfest with very sad rolls. I got the Vishnu, there's an Indra who is a very glorious card to have right now. There's Isis, and now I'm going to basically just show you my pluses, because I feel like that's kind of where most people have interest, like where do I have invested my plus eggs. So I do have Balden, and Balden is basically I hate everyone except for a couple cards, mostly dragons, machines, and devils. He has 5 Killer Awakenings. It's 297 because I feel like it might have a use one day, and to be honest, I have a lot of 297s to spare on Fantastic, just because I happen to roll the Paladin machine a lot, and then when I co-op myself, I tend to have those collateral benefits. I did use Awoken Shiva and then Reincarnated Shiva for quite a while, but Mantastic never rolled Shiva, or he did very late. so it never really caught on in terms of co-oping. It was mostly I'd have a Shiva up, so my best friends would use me because it was quite popular at the time. I eventually transitioned over into the Krishna, and Krishna has been relatively powerful. It clears Arena 3 reasonably consistently. It's just slow, unfortunately. I have this bean, which is very impressive, and it's there for a +8 holder, which I may never feed off. In Watcher, I actually have quite a powerful water box, surprisingly. I have Sarasvati, I have Lakshmi, I have a Blue Sonya, which I did use quite a long time, to be fair. And I have Blue Odin, which can supplement it. There's Mori Montanari, there's UNY, there's Famiel, there's Orochi, and now there is Mary. And presently speaking, Mary is my current favorite team because she can basically do everything, and not just do everything, but she does it fast and consistently. Because right now, I actually can clear Arena 3 in almost half the time as Miru would take, and it's quite enjoyable because it's a different play style. So I do have a glorious Beach Cali, or Coloring Book Cali, and I actually rolled 6 of them, and I fused them all together for the Free Awakenings, so go me. And I gave her Sharius as an inherit. I use it occasionally on my UNY team, let's put it that way. In terms of wood, I do actually have a single Kaede, which I've never really used, I just have it. I also have a Vishnu, which is not plussed out, because again, I don't really have much uses for a team like this. I do have my Zeus Dios army, I do have Awoken Liu. There's a Perseus who kind of just chills out, doesn't do much, unfortunately. I have Awoken Kushi. I used it for a bit, it just felt frustrating sometimes, the consistency. The damage never felt high enough, I felt. Because, I don't know, it just wasn't ideal sometimes. I have the Green Snake, whose name I can't pronounce, for farming SDR, because that poison helps. There's Tengu. There's a Astaroth with the Dragon Killer, which is important for SDR farming. Again, some more 297 holders. I have Reincarnated Ra, which I've used to farm Machine Zeus, and I'll show you those teams after I go through the 297s. I have Reincarnated Venus, and this is basically my mirror team. I'll show that as well. I have basically I actually have a very powerful mirror team for Fantastic, because I actually rolled 2 Wedding Akachis here, so I was very lucky. So they're on my Venus and my mirror. I got Wu Kong, who is glorious, and he has a red Odin Tamazo for poisoning. There's Saria with Saria, because you can double your fun all the time. I used the Wedding Izami for quite some time, actually, when I was actually playing with my Awoken DQXQ, because that was actually a very powerful leader at some point in the game. I'm assisting with this Wedding action. It's 297. That was possibly a mistake on my end. There's a Chibi DQ and a few more 297 pluses. I have a Yomi Dragon, and I do have all the materials ready to go for Yomi Dragon's Evolution whenever it comes to North America for both my accounts, so I'm just waiting patiently. I do have a bunch of Pandoras, actually. There's another one you can't see, but it's just not 297. I have S. Shamali, Dark Metatron. I have Reincarnated, or Woken Yomi, I should say, who is a fun leader, one of my favorite leaders. Just unfortunate they don't have much viability. This Fenrir exists solely because I use it for a ranking dungeon, and yeah, that's the only reason why it's pimped out. I would never use it otherwise. Again, lots of +8 fodder hiding around, and I'll just do a quick scroll through my box so you can see the other cards. I actually rolled 2 Red Odins and only 1 Coloring Book Sakuya out of like 500 rolls, and I only got 1 Sakuya. It was kind of disappointing, to be honest. I have a healthy amount of Ps or Pies, just because I generally don't have that much rare machine cards, and I can farm Arena without much difficulty. I have Masterings. It was kind of like I was going to make the King Mastering, and then I got kind of lazy, and I just really haven't followed through. I do have the Buff Owl, which is glorious. His artwork is superb in his new form. Again, actually very few Bub Ps. I probably should look into why that's the case. I tend to hoard things, as you probably noticed. I rolled 5 Mel's, who does rhyme with Hell, and that was kind of disappointing for the heroines. So again, there's the Vishnu, there's the Elise, which is the Green Valkyrie. I have the Ace Tet. I have an Artemis, I have a Verdandi, I have a Meme, a bunch of Wood Peas. I have that glorious Green Odin. I do have a Ras, who is basically a skill inheritance transfer just for padding stats. And I got 3 Mitos, which is not ideal, but maybe we'll find a use for it one day, who knows. Anything noteworthy in light, taking a look. I have Bale, who's not really invested in whatsoever. Don't really, never used it. I've only got 2 unique Orpharian parts, and it's 2 heads and 1 of the feet. I feel like I'm just going to acquire all the parts from Colosseum, so that's kind of where I'm hoping for. Again, I have like all the stuff ready if I need to switch over to other things. I have a lot of SDRs. I farmed a bunch. I put a bunch onto my Mary and my Miru team. A bunch of Shine Peas, 46 to be exact, and probably another 20 in my mailbox, actually. I actually rolled a Navi. I'm surprised, and she's not useful really at all, unfortunately, so that's awkward. I got a bunch of Sarias, which is great for inheritance on Miru. I max skilled 5 different Melissas just because I was farming Greta, and then I probably sold another like 60 of them. I got Greta after about 100 runs, so that was a little stressful. I got 3 Mamajis. There's a bunch of Sakuyas lying around, not used unfortunately. There's Joan de Crap, which from my free rolls, so that was depressing. I have a Lubu, which I've never really used unfortunately. I might have used it once in a while actually back in the day. I have a Typhon. I'll show you sort by rarity and monster points in a moment as well. I got a bunch of Zuos. I have a Haku. I have the Eshamali. I have a bunch of Bad Peas. I have an extra Haku. I have max skill my Greta, which is nice. There's a Satsuki, which is getting a new evolution, which should be exciting. There's a Sheena. There's not too much other things. I got only a couple Cyber Dragons, and then the rest is just, ooh, I should really favor that. I tend to favor my Peas. I don't know why. And I just basically hoard evolution materials and random crap, basically. Like, I like hoarding stuff. That's partially why I have that much box space. Let's put it that way. So yeah, like, I've got a lot of killer latents, and I would have more, but I fused some around, actually. I fused them onto my Mary team. So I'll show those in a moment. I got a bunch of Tamadras. I'm pretty well stocked up. Like, I have lots of 297s. I have Tamadras. I can basically get a team up and running anytime I need to. So I'm going to start by monster points, and we're going to just take a look at basically all the 6 stars I've ever rolled. So if we go at 6 stars, I got the Baldwin twice actually. I haven't evolved the second one. I'm not sure what I'm going to do with it. I'm just letting it chill out. I have the Navi, the Mary, I have Kaede, Typhon, Scald, Eshamali, Blue Sonya, Ryune, 2 Red Odins actually, Blue Odin, Dark Metatron. So I've got a pretty healthy amount of 6-star Godfest exclusives, more than Mantastic. I actually have 15 in total, so that's actually a lot for me. Mantastic I think is like 13, which is kind of surprising because generally speaking, if I ever get any gift cards as presents, they're generally in the form of iTunes, and usually it's Mantastic who does the IAPing there and rolls, but doesn't actually work out, unfortunately. So another thing that's interesting to look at is sorting by rarity. I like to collect radar dragons. It took me over 100 Arena 3 clears to get my first Hippo Dragon. He was the bane of my existence for a good 3-4 months, basically since Arena came out. And since then, he's been dropping a little more often, but even so, it hasn't really equalized out because I have significantly more Noah Dragons, way more Gaia Dragons, a bunch of Zeus, and a lot of Heras. So what is that? That's how many rows? 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's 48 Radar Dragons. So I've played Arena 3 a lot because the drop rate has definitely not been 1 out of 3 for me. It's been probably a lot lower. So I've played a lot of Arena 3. And for a while, that's how I basically acquired all my tans. I had a good tan stockpile up just from playing Arena 3. Alrighty, so we are going to look at the teams I use. Alright, so basically in team slot 1, I just show a monster basically for my friends. And I also have my ID ready. I can basically populate the team list to show my ID. If you try to add me, it may be difficult. I'll show my friends list in a moment, and you'll probably see why. Teams 2 basically is just for my best friends. I usually show Shiva. I was doing an example of something. I showed basically like a Awoken Liu Bei setup, but you could use any leader, and I basically said just do it, because you should do it. My third team is Miru. It's my Miracle And the team has Wedding Akashi with 5 SDRs on Miru, Saria with 2 health and Saria on top of herself, DQ just by herself with 5 SDRs, Venus with the Akachi and 5 SDRs, and Wu fucking Kong with Red Own Tamazo and Rainbow Resist. Rainbow Resist are useful for basically dodging the 100% gravity save from Hera is, or Zerog, like basically Zerog spawn if you flub something. My very merry team makes me very happy and very merry overall, and I have Orochi on Mary with 5 SDRs. Blue Sonya has Hermes, and I actually have a Machine Killer, and I actually use Machine Killers on every single one of my subs because they're all physical types. And the Machine Killer actually allows me to kill Gaia Dragon more easily, as well as Colosseum when it comes out. It will allow me to bypass the Machine Zeus, Machine Hera, and the Machine bosses at the end. So I'm well situated to basically combat the Machine encounters. But main reason is also because I lack a gemstone, so I don't have easy access to burst damage by comparison. Again, another Machine Killer on another Machine Killer on Andromeda. It has Summer Urge for the stat transfer. And Sarasvati, I don't know why it has a Dark Resist. It should have SDRs. But I have Indra for shielding. And this setup is more so for when I co-op with myself and in Arena 3. Like, setting up for solo is slightly different. And to a certain extent, when you play Mary solo, you have to basically sacrifice a loss against certain radar dragons. You can't really counter all of them perfectly. My next team is my Awoken Liu-based Skillful team. Basically, this is the setup I use to farm SDRs. I have a guide on my website, and it basically allows me to button through SDRs without actually any conscious effort. This is my splashing success with my Unisashi Yamasachi. It's not really used. There should be Orochi where Sarasvati is, but he's being inherited away, so there's no Orochi there currently. It's just kind of like the fill-in team for now. This is my So Fire team. It's basically my Krishna. Again, it's played in co-op with myself for Arena 3, so I basically rely on softer bind clears, such as the Yamatos, who have Yamato on Yamato, because I like to roll the same card over and over again. I have Awoken Ares on Krishna to upgrade it, and then Leyland has a Verdandi. My Lakshmi team, who I used to use, has been kind of cannibalized, to be honest. None of the subs except for Andromeda are used. They're mostly used on Mary team, but my Mary team has been basically stealing all of them for herself as inherits, so my Lakshmi team looks kind of lackluster and unusual at this point in time. This is the Shiva team I do run on rare occasions. It just has some TPA, it has some orb enhances, so it just, I don't know, I just play it every once in a while, say with Pancake or my mom. This is basically the cheese team I use, and that bean should be Orochi. It's the team I use to farm Machine Zeus. Yes, it's not the exact copy of the special carry build, but it works for me because I don't have a 30% gravity I can inherit. This is my button farming team. I could replace them with Melissa's, but I kind of like the Raw Tamadras and the Memorial Tamadra. Basically, I enter the dungeon with myself, and myself on Mantastic has all skill boosts. I go in and just button, everything dies. This is my team's skill boost, and basically it's a team just full of skill boosts, and it has a Zeus Dios as the leader, just because if I'm playing Start-In, I like to have Zeus Dios pairings. And this is my rank 700 team for now. I'm happy. I don't know what to put in there. At the moment, I don't use that many teams because I'm pretty happy with Mary at this point in time. So that's basically the teams I use on Fantastic. It's mostly just helps supplement my main account's success. And in terms of my friends list, I do only have like 2 spaces. It's probably going to be taken up soon. But if we look at added, my mom and myself were the oldest friends I have. And surprisingly, the Fun Kit is also very old. They still use U and Y, and I'm surprised they still play and they're still active. Like, I'm kind of impressed by that fact. Like, myself was the first friend. Mantastic came at some point. There was a couple in between, but I deleted them at some point right there. And, like, I'm surprised some of these players have still played, and they're still active, because I only usually delete friends after about 7 days of inactivity, and then more for best friends. But part of the reason why I've managed to acquire a lot of PAL points is because I actually have quite a few best friends on Fantastic. Not as many as Mantastic, but if we estimate, that's what, maybe a third of the way down or so, so about 100 best friends. So I do tend to roll in the PAL points, and thus I can roll a lot more in PAL events. It does help me save a lot of stamina when basically I don't have to farm for evolution or experience mats because, well, it makes a big difference. Let's put it that way. So hopefully this box tour was interesting and exciting. Hopefully it gave you a bit of insight into the mysterious Mantastic. Hopefully you all have a Mantastic day, and best of luck in your own Puzzle and Dragons adventures, and happy puzzling!